Capture devices, that's what we're going to go over today, but not just any old review of this capture card or that capture card. This is a review of my past year and a half of purchasing pretty much every capture device on Amazon and also going to Best Buy and picking them up. I'm going to show my order history with how much I paid and did all this. So this is all completely legit. I only have one in here that was actually sent to me by a manufacturer, and I thought, you know what, let's just combine everything I've done in the past year and a half into one video. And also, I will be comparing both Windows and Linux and the setup process. Some of these just don't work in Linux, and I'm going to kind of explain that. And then also, some of these don't work out of the box in Windows. Some of them require software, which I thought was kind of bunk. But needless to say, I will go over the pros and cons of each one. Let's get on the desktop and go over this. It's a huge conglomeration of things I've tried because my whole purpose is to have a capture setup to where when I make these videos, I just hit record, it grabs everything, gives me a nice little file, I ingest that right into my media editor, and then edit the videos immediately, which would be fantastic, and I'm getting very, very close to that. Also, a lot of my capturing has been done on Windows, and I'm about to kind of switch off a lot of that. The only thing I need Windows for, which I'll actually probably put back in the rack, is for some of the automatic capturing through the Wi-Fi of my camera that I'm looking at right now. But past that, everything will be done in Linux after this week. So I'm going to be doing some really fun videos coming up this week. But with all that said, let's jump into the video. Let's get on the desktop, go through my actual purchases as... Man, this was quite an adventure because some of these, I got such a wide range of this works, this doesn't work on almost all these. So let's get after it. Before we get into the video, I do live stream over on Twitch both Monday and Friday. So if you'd like to ask a question, head over there, ask me live. Or you can check out all the archives of all my past streams over on Chris Titus Tech Streams. The links are in the description. So with that, let's get into our video. All right, let's go over my history. We're going to start with the Flint Cloner Alliance. This is about 140 or so. I bought this last year. This one is kind of nice because it's just a HDMI in, and you just go right from that into your computer. So very good in principle. It also strips out HDCP, so you can actually take, let's say, Windows desktops with HDCP enabled and then ingest it into your capture box pretty darn easily. The problem with this one, though, that I ran into is, one, I got some artifacting. I plugged my USB cable in, and I'd see artifacting on the bottom section, and that caused some issues. So I don't know if it was a quality control issue, but I actually watched, I think, Epos Vox's video on this one too, and I think he saw the same thing. So I wouldn't recommend this one, as I ended up, I think, returning this one after trying it out for a couple weeks and just not being satisfied. The next one up on the list is the Evolve. It is actually kind of cool. I got a bunch of stuff. This one was the only one on this list that was actually sent to me recently. Was sent by the Cloner Alliance team. This one was interesting. I didn't particularly like the capturing capabilities. If you're pulling this into a computer, I would not recommend this box at all, even though you can do it. It does require independent software. It's not recognized out of the gate in Windows. It is not Linux compatible, as I was not able to get anything from it. What this box is good for, though, is it has 3 inputs in, 2 HDMIs in, and also you have your old composite, which is kind of cool. So you can do old school, Nintendo and whatever you want, and record all that gameplay footage directly on the box, as you have a little card slot you see on the right side there. You plug that into your card slot, and off you go. You can just go ahead and hit record. It has a remote control, which is fantastic. So this would be one of those set-top boxes you put in your living room, and then maybe have your game consoles hooked up to it. This is probably one of the best ones I've seen for that specifically. But as far as hooking it directly into the stream, for my purposes, I'm not going to be using this box, as this is more meant for a living room piece. So and when it comes to this box, I would say not a fan for actually direct ingestion, but good for it being a standalone box. Next up is probably the cheapest on this list, and the Pingo. HDMI capture. I don't know this company. I went and bought it recently, and that's what this camera is actually running on. It works really good for the most part, so it's kind of funny. A couple things to explain here. This adapter is atrocious. I did it on live stream, actually, where I was like, hey guys, I'm going to switch this out and put it on my other PC, but it didn't have the USB-C directly on the motherboard. So I used the adapter, plugged it into a USB 3 port, and the quality of the image was horrific, like noticeably bad. And everyone commented on it, and they were like, what is up with this? And then I went ahead and put it on the other PC with the adapter. Sure enough, same problem. Took the adapter off, plugged it directly back in. Everything cleared up. So this one can be a good budget for just pulling in an HDMI source directly into a USB 3 slot. However, I don't know if I'd recommend it, as I've been noticing my actual Streambox blue screen about every couple hours or so. So I'm pulling this into Linux and putting a whole new build for the actual USB streaming in a brand new computer and everything, which will be done later this week as well. As soon as I get that box in, I'll record that entire process of building that Linux Streambox. But for now, I just have to basically cross my fingers anytime I stream with this device plugged in, as it can cause blue screens, but it is very, very cheap. And the image quality is actually pretty good. That's what I'm recording on right now. That's what you see, and that's a DSLR directly into this guy. It grabs the right resolution, and overall, I'm quite pleased based on the price point. Next up is going to be the Avermedia Portable 2. This is the non-plus version, obviously not really available anymore. I did review the plus version, which is coming up in a second. This one has good ingestion capabilities. It does have pass-through and direct record to the actual SD card. So you can put an SD card on this, and I'm going to go ahead and show you right down here at the bottom. This is pass-through, this is SD card, this is directly into the PC. I don't recommend using pretty much any of these ports, but for a straight ingestion device for the live game portable, it works on both Linux and Windows, and I gotta say, I'm very pleased with this device. This is what my main capture device has been for about the past year or so. I like it because I can go between Linux and Windows, and it never skips a beat. It just works for me. Next up, this is probably the biggest disappointment, was the Quad Link from Blackmagic. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to be able to take 4 HDMIs. I'm not going to have any of these USB peripherals sitting out. Everything's going to be right with the world. I'm going to love this. And I hook it up. I plug in this camera, this one, and it looks worse than the $80 Pingo device. It was only able to grab my camera at like 480p, and I go to the forums and they're like, yeah, Canon DSLRs and even Sony DSLRs have issues. And I'm like, what? How do you make a capture device that can't grab cameras? That's kind of silly, but Blackmagic did it. So this is a heaping pile of poo for $545. You can quote me on that one. Don't buy it. If you want a high-end quad link, again, I'd probably recommend looking at the Magewell, which is almost double the price. Next up is a whole host of them. This is just my order history from Best Buy. As you see, I've redeemed like a bunch of certificates and other things. So I went through the Cam Link, which did work, but it was Windows only. I then tried the Game Capture HD 60 Pro, which was a very, very good card as long as you're running Windows all the time. So I ended up returning that and ended up settling kind of on my Avermedia Live Gamerable Portable Plus 2. God, they need to work on their freaking naming conventions. The Elgato, there's tons of reviews out there. If you're a huge Windows guy and you only stick with Windows, Elgato's fine. But if you're Linux and you're bouncing around like me, I wouldn't use Elgato, as there's a lot of proprietary stuff that goes with them. So, you know, pick your poison as you want. For me, though, I really want a streamlined workflow using Linux. So with that, that's why I wanted to go with the Avermedia Live Gamer Portable 2. And then I'm probably going to be using the Pingo. Coming up, I'm going to probably bounce around between these two. But overall, this is my adventure into game streaming. And I got to say, as far as grabbing streaming sources from cameras and screens, it's a very dicey thing. There's nothing perfect about this. And I really wish this was a better experience. But alas, here we are. all these worked to some extent, but none of them were like, wow, you have to go out and buy them. For me, the Avermedia was probably my favorite. Elgato for Windows users, if I was strictly a Windows user, is probably what I'd recommend for you guys. But depending on what your needs are, that's what I found. It was very interesting, but needless to say, hopefully this saves you a lot of time and money, as it took me probably a year and a half of going through all these devices and a lot of returning and going back and forth to find kind of what I have right now, which isn't great, but it's a starting place, and it's a very, very low cost entry point. So eventually I'll move past this into a more professional setup. And that's every single capture device I've bought in the past year and a half. Quite a bit here. I was kind of depressed at how much of this stuff didn't work. If I had to have infinite money and I could buy any one of these, I wouldn't actually buy anything I actually showed today. It would probably be a Magewell PCI card. It's almost $1,000 for this card, but I've heard a lot of great things. It's probably my next purchase whenever I just get a ridiculous amount of money that I can blow. But until then, I'm kind of stuck with the average people out there just buying the little, $100 cards here and there, trying to see what works, what doesn't work, and making it all kind of jive to make these videos. But with all that said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Is there anything that I missed here? Is there one of these capture cards that you'd like to see and I didn't know about? Because I've tried pretty much everything out on the market, and all of them aren't the best. There's nothing in here that I'm like, oh, you have to have this card. All of them have their pros and cons. But with that said, a big shout out to all my patrons. Without you, I couldn't make videos like this one, and I'll see you in the next one.